Thank you so much, Greg. So I'll be showing off my levels here now. Again, my name is Ashton Sanders, and I created the cavern level that will then lead into the mountain village level. So I'll go ahead and get started. So I'll go ahead and pull up one of my bugs that I've corrected and start there for Jira. And I'm using executable 47 for this build. We have the cavern, and this is the first level that I created and have been working on. And one of the biggest errors I was having with this level was that the health bar was not showing up on my Wisp enemy type. So you would open the game, you would launch it, you would go into it, the Wisp nest that would spawn the Wisp would have a health bar, but the Wisp itself would not have a health bar. So now I can showcase my level, and indeed the Wisp does have a health bar. So back into the build here. And the wisps get triggered. And when you're within a certain range, the health bars appear. And so, a bit more information available. The teleporter is missing a piece. Oh no. So this shows up in the middle of your screen rather than as a print string message, so it's much more communicative for the player. And the very first and probably the biggest way that you can die in this level, in fact one of the only two ways that you can fail this level, is to reach 0 health either by wisp attacks or by jelly boss attacks. So I'm just going to stand here and die by wisp attacks. Oh, it's going to make my camera go all kinds of wonky them being this close. Follow me into the darkness. Love that health bar. It's a beautiful health bar. I would argue it's the best health bar I've seen on a Wisp since ever. Look at it, right there. 20. I think this one doesn't have a health bar, but there it is. A health bar. Jesus. Come on. End it. End my suffering. Yeah, there we go. So when you hit 0 health from wisp attacks, you lose. You can retry the level, and it brings you right back to the beginning. So the only other way to die is from the jellyfish boss attack, which is at the very end of the level, so I apologize in advance for having to watch this twice. But I will go ahead and speed through this level. Do you have any criteria for this one? Oh, that was a good one. Okay. So this task is an interesting task, and I don't know if I have gameplay footage to show what happens when before I fix it, but essentially the special attacks that are available for the player, they wouldn't work on the enemies across the board. They would only work on certain enemy types and only sometimes. So I went in and fixed the blueprints so that way they connect to all of the enemies in the game. And so my secondary attack, that little exploding ball, and then my grenade attack should damage any enemy in the game. So when the player throws a grenade, it damages all enemies within the explosion radius. That's not within the explosion radius. Maybe we'll show that off in the mountain enemy and the mountain village level. I'm just going to go ahead and speed through this. Can't do that yet. You have acquired the dash item. Use left alt to dash. Hold dash. Just gonna ignore all those wisps following me around. They have pretty decent aim overall. They do try and predict where the player's gonna end up, but if you move fast enough, they can't keep up. So, not too worried about that. You have collected missing teleporter piece. Alright. Second way to die. Jellyfish boss. So this one takes a while because the jellyfish boss only has one attack. And that attack is an AoE attack that only spawns randomly. So maybe I can take a little bit of damage from these wisp guys. Wispy boys. But yeah, it just kind of floats there. There we go. And then it has this big AoE attack that continues to expand. And does a lot of damage to the player. And then it resets. And then we get to do it all over again. Oh, I shouldn't have gotten health. What was I thinking? You can do it. There we go. Expands again. And I lose. Took a lot of damage. So in the cavern level, those are the two ways that you lose. You just get attacked by the wisp enemy a bunch of times, or you stand in the AoE attack of the jellyfish boss, and that causes you to die as well. Go ahead and do this one last time. And I'll go ahead and showcase some of the secondary attacks to show that they are working when they're in range of the enemy. All of the enemy types. Many enemy types. If I can get a wisp close enough, anyway. Oh, I also added the objective list. I forgot about that. So now I have an objective list. Find the teleporter. Find the teleporter. Missing piece. Fix the teleporter. Defeat all the enemies. Win the level. So the objective lists should be pretty consistent throughout the game. The goal is to help guide the players through the levels without necessarily giving them, detailed instructions on how to complete the level. Instead, it's more, hey, look for these things. These things might help you. Here are the overall goals of the level. And so they're tailored to each level that they're included on, and they change as the levels update and adjust. And you can toggle them on and off. So if you don't want them, you can turn them off. So that was something I added to, I think, pretty much everyone's level. Everyone who said that they wanted the objective list in their level has the objective list available to the players. And those that don't have the objective list, it's presumably to match the mood of their level. They just don't want the players to have that option available. So let's see. Alright, so teleporter's charging. We got the jelly boss. You can see that the secondary attack does damage. I don't think I can... The grenade attack does do damage to the jellyfish boss. That was pretty sweet. But the jellyfish boss does take damage, and it drops this gigantic mushroom. That maximum health restored. Yay. Alright, so this is the second level that I made. It's the mountain village level. Welcome to the mountains. Here you can use the cold air to your advantage. Press 1 to freeze your opponents where they stand. So you can see the freeze bar at the bottom. Click freeze, and it has a cooldown. And if you hit freeze again, once the cooldown is complete, you can use it. And so in this level, I'm going to showcase the secondary damage special attacks because I have enemies that are a little easier to hit with the secondary attacks since they're slow moving and AoE attacks. So I'll show that off. When the player throws a grenade, it damages all enemies within the explosion radius. Still have an objective list. And you can see I fixed the health bar so they pop up. Actually, boom! All enemies exploded. All enemies took damage. The damage occurs only one time, so this is more for the secondary attack. The grenade has a single explosion and then it destroys itself, so it's a little bit easier. This one, it only damages one time and it damages any opponent that it goes through, which is pretty sweet. Damaged enemies continue to attack player, so neither of these secondary attacks interrupt damage. It's a little hard to show with the grenade because it pretty much kills anything in its path. You can come in here, secondary damage, doesn't matter, enemy's still gonna attack me and do damage to me, so that works. When the player uses their secondary attack, so the exploding bubble, it does a large amount of damage when it hits an enemy. It does approximately 25 points of damage to each enemy. The bullets themselves do between 10 and 15, so 25 is significantly more than an individual bullet would do. The secondary and grenade attacks work properly against all enemy types. So we saw that the grenade absolutely blew up the jellyfish boss. It also destroys the wisp nests, which I can show again later. And it destroys these mountain enemy types. So from what I can showcase here, the grenade is going to damage anything in its path. Anything that's a character. Please. And got some feedback last time. I was running through this level about the large capsules. So the capsules are meant to hold more coins when they're large than the smaller capsules. So I increased the coin count on those so that way it's a little more balanced. But this task is completed. Let's see. So mountain enemy health bar issues. This was one that I struggled with quite a lot. Health bars look fantastic right now compared to what they were. You get in range, the health bars appear. Let me see. You get out of range, the health bars disappear. So they do exactly what they're supposed to. You don't need to see where all of the enemies are, see all of the enemy health bars. They should only appear when you're within range, and more importantly, they need to be on the screen rather than the world. And so what was happening with my previous level, or my previous iteration, was they had to show up in the world because the UI health bar is what was taking the damage for this mountain enemy type. So now it's resolved, and the mountain enemy takes the damage, the mesh itself, rather than the bar on top. So we'll go ahead and see what else we got. And I'll show this at the end here. Freeze accessible before a mountain village level. Actually, I guess I'll go ahead and just show it since I'm not very far in. But essentially the freeze ability was accessible before the mountain village level. But really the freeze is only accessible during the mountain village level. It should only be used in that village because the concept is you're using the cold air to freeze your enemies. It's not necessarily something that the player can do whenever they want. And it would also break a lot of the functionality of the game because of the different enemy types and how they're meant to work. So it only works in the mountain village because you only have melee enemy types in the mountain village. But let me go over to the cavern. So the cavern you just saw, it occurs before the mountain village. If I click the 1 key, it doesn't freeze. It won't let me use the freeze ability, and you can see the bottom of the screen, there is no freeze bar. But if I go over to my mountain village level, there is a freeze bar, and I can use the freeze ability. So that is working perfectly. It's working exactly the way it should, and it's not working outside of this level specifically, which is how it should be. What else we got? I think that's most of it. Build has been tested for bugs across the board. I went through, tested all of the levels that I could. Any bugs will be created in Jira and worked on as a team. The bugs that I found, I worked on and completed. So that task has been completed. And I think that covers everything in Jira. So I'm going to go ahead and play through this level so you can see what it looks like. And then I will pass it over to Maddie so she can showcase her levels. First things first. Give it all. I want it all. Just a little shield item there. Not as useful as one would hope, but still can be useful. For example, can't reach me. Another shield. No enemies are attacking. Here's one. Oh, damn. Yay! You have collected Great Key! Thank goodness, otherwise we'd never get out of here. Alright. I believe that clears out this area. So, now we can unlock the grate and go to the cave. I wonder if I can show off the grenade here. Dang. Yay! Come here. Come here, you little yellow ball. Come on. Show you what's up. Yeah. I made sure to put a lot of extra coins in this level because the great key can only be found by unlocking a chest, which costs 5 bits. And so without the bits, or without the coins, or whatever you want to call them, if you don't have enough, then you can't continue the level. So I made sure to flood the level with extra coins, so the player always had enough available to complete the level. Climb back up. Okay, so now that we have done all of that work, let's start showing all of the ways we can die in this level, just to extend the pain and torture. Step 1, blowing up the barrel. It does 5,000 points of damage. It absolutely will kill the player every single time they are within its range, and it is not a good option. So it is recommended that you stand back per request of the level. The other way that you can die, actually I don't think you can fall off the map. I did a pretty good job of boarding this up. Look at me. It's almost like I design levels sometimes. Yeah, so you should not be able to jump off the map. There are borders across all of the landscape and all of these gates. So if you are able to jump off the map, that's pretty impressive because I'm pretty sure I put borders around everything. Let's see, obviously death by damage. So you've already seen that the wisp enemies will do damage enough to die, but so will these guys. The mountain enemies do an insane amount of melee damage, and the purpose for that is to force players to use the freeze mechanic in this level. I really want them to have to freeze their opponents in order to survive, and so that's why they do so much melee damage back to back. Could certainly delay that, could bring it down to a much more reasonable level, but that would defeat the goal, which is to make it so the player has to use the abilities available to them. That wasn't what I wanted. Oh, just failed across the board there. Just gonna speed run here because we saw all the ways that you can die. The barrel exploding is personally my favorite way to die because it can be easily prevented, but that's what makes it fun. Just to show here. Nope. No chance. Not going over. You may think you have fooled me, but you have not. Alright, so if you shoot the barrel with a reasonable amount of distance, it blows up a rock in your path. So now you can continue on through the level. Where the teleporter is hidden around this corner, I wanted to make sure that the player could not see where the teleporter was located anywhere in the level until they reach it. And it doesn't have a charge timer because the goal of this level was to find the explosive item, implement the explosive item, make sure that it's working properly. And so as long as you've done that and you've collected all of and you've beaten the enemies, collected the barrel, and blasted open the rock, you can continue on to the next level, which will lead directly into Madeline Enland's level, the waves, her enemy wave level. So I will pass it on over to her, and she can show off all of the cool things in her level. And just one last time, look at that beautiful objective list. I made that list. It's a beautiful list, and it's, again, tailored to each level. Thank you.